How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to another Crusade video. A couple of weeks ago they released a map of how the world of Crusade looks like, so let's take a look at it. There's a lot going on here, and I don't want to get much into detail. The most important things to point out are the three main capitals: the Vatican, Britain, and the Crown of Spain. And do you see this black spot here on the map? That's the northern hellgate. I'm pretty sure there's also another gate here in Central Europe, where the Balkans used to be. Turkey no longer exists, and Gibraltar is being raided right now, but we won't get much into detail. And so let's start with the four main places we've got, starting with the place I just mentioned, the Hellgate of the North. Since the fall of man, the borders between the worlds have been strained. When the perfect order of God was blighted by sin, it allowed creatures from hell to escape their miserable domains, where they had been condemned for their rebellion against Yahweh. With the ultimate heresy, the borders of the world became even more worn, and tears in reality appeared, allowing some denizens of hell to escape their just punishment, bringing misery to earth. Thus, it is no wonder that all cultures have tales of hunters in the dark, monsters that have come from another world to savage and consume ours. But some cuts in the fabric of reality are deeper than others. In the vast coldness of the far north, the borders of creation sometimes give way, allowing a gaping hellmouth to manifest itself in the physical world. Some say this northern gate stands at a cross-section of ley lines, where men fell prostrate before graven images in the dark days. Others say that this was the place where the angel Azazel fell in the most desolate of all regions of the world, though nothing but an insignificant miniature copy compared to the vile majesty of the true Hellgate of Jerusalem. The Hellmouth of the North still holds enough power to make the thrones of all the realms within the Arctic Ocean tremble. Hidden in the trackless wilderness of the Kola Peninsula, the gate appears for a brief few hours, in location and time, shifting with the mercurial power struggles of hell itself. When such a time comes, the sky turns red and the hell of brimstone burns everything it touches for miles around. As the gate yawns open, the unbearable heat of hell reduces forests to cinders, and the unearthly fumes turn animals into twisted monstrosities that rend each other and themselves in anguish. The Hellmouth then disgorges the hosts of the court of the seven-headed serpent, coming to challenge the rule of God. At such times, those men of the north that have fallen to the darkness gather under the banners of hell and muster at the gate. Combined warbands strike out, and foul fire light the night skies of the north. The light of the Redeemer never shone as right here, and many people still cling to their old ways and old gods. It is a bitter twist of irony that not all who fight for the Lords of Inferno see themselves as servants of evil. The devils know how to appear beautiful and noble in the eyes of their followers to deceive the humans. Many do believe that they're fighting for real gods to drive away the invaders. The Hellmouth of the North never remains open for long. The Zenote of strategic prophecy strives to predict the timing and the ever-shifting location of its next appearance, so that the Church of the North and the forces of the Kalmar Union, the Knightly Orders of the North, and the Tsardom of Novgorod can muster to meet them in battle. It is a war fought in the middle of the winter, and the servants of the court have proven to be just as adept at using intense cold and ice, as well as hellfire in their war against the faithful of the north. These incursions tied up the greater part of the strength of the people here, which otherwise could have been used to bolster the main theater of war in the Levant. And whilst thus far each invasion have been defeated, they have all left their marks in trackled forest and endless tundra. Remnants of monsters lurk in the dark forest and forbidding hills, waiting for the call to worms that is sure to come next time the Hellmouth of the North gapes open. There is another deeper concern that the War Cardinal holds about the Northern Gate, and the reason why his personal servants keep vigil over it. Siminar, one of the royalty of fallen angels, it is also the devil of the North. And so the Council of Saints issued a dire warning to the princes of the church. If this scion of hell ever becomes the serpent head of pride, he will come to claim the north as his own, and mountains will tremble at his passing. As a side note, Siminar is a devil mentioned in Solomon's Miner's Key. He, alongside other three devils, represent cardinal directions, with Siminar being the devil representing the north. In that book, it mentions that Siminar shouldn't be summoned. That may be the reason why he doesn't have a proper demonic sigil. Anyways, we've previously mentioned something called the Zenote of strategic prophecy, a small faction aligned with the church, so let's Take a look of what this zenote really is. The Valley of the World serves as both the headquarters of the spiritual home of the Zenote of Strategic Prophecy. Its location remains one of the most closely guarded secrets in all of Christendom, a hidden temple nestled deep within a remote European gorge, where the very stones help to amplify the echoes of God's words. Some say this sacred valley was the first place on earth where creation began. Whatever the truth, it is a place that makes men tremble and humbles all who enter. Within its founds, one feels like the weight of an intense gaze that pierces all shadows and falsehoods, a pressure that reveals your innermost thoughts and exposes the deepest recesses of the soul. Few can withstand walking these hallowed grounds without bowing their heads in submission. But above all, the valley is the only place on earth where one can learn the superhuman skills of the observers, the warrior monks of the order. It is the sole source of tacticians of the Zenote, who allow communion with the Council of Saints. It is no wonder that the cost for those who find the valley without permission to enter is steep. A lifetime of servitude as a lay brother or sister. These unwilling initiates, along willing volunteers, compose the army of servants and menial laborers, known as receptors. Their brains are partially replaced with receivers, attuned to the word of God, transmitted from the powerful arrays atop the temple of the word. The floor of the valley itself forms the cloister of the temple, a vast expanse covered with arrays of dishes, antennae, radio telescopes, and listening posts, all straining towards the heavens to communicate with God. Here, the supplicants of the Zenote send their prayers, pleas, and questions into the firmament, listening intently for an answer back. The cryptic messages they receive are processed through numerous engines designed by the Zenote-ordained engineers, then translated, analyzed, and studied by the scholar monks from the many monasteries. Each monastery specializes in their own area, ranging from subjects as the woman clothed in sun, the great beast, or interpreting the sounds of angelic trumpets. These things are mentioned in the mythos in the Book of Apocalypse, by the way. The Zenote agents tirelessly scour sanitariums and asylums, searching for those who claim to hear the words of the Almighty. It is a thankless task, as fewer than 1 in 10,000 that undergo the test have the true gift. The rest are prisoners of their own delusions, mere charlatans, or those whose minds have been broken by the horrors of the Great War. Rarer still are the children who hear the word with clarity. The Zenote seeks them out at the earliest age possible, so they can become tacticians. Younger children with a gift hear the divine counsel far more clearly than even the most well-trained adult observers and become the Zenote's most valued assets. Did you see these little things that seem to have come from Hellraiser? Yeah, those are children. They undergo a horrid transformation that leaves them in that state to communicate with God. That's why they have a radio antenna in their bags, so yeah. All of this in the name of defeating hell. The valley is home to all manner of workshops and foundries, which produce the armaments of the observers. The most important of these is the Kali factory, where the wondrous Oculus helmets are created out of pure recalcum. Each one a unique masterpiece of engineering and craftsmanship. Since no two souls experience the voice of God the same way, every Oculus helmet is custom-made, attuned to its wearer's unique spiritual resonance. These helmets allow the warrior monks and nuns to extract righteous guidance from a divine narrative, spanning from the dawn of creation to the present moment and into the distant future. Scattered across the valley floor are hundreds of monastic cells, each home to an observer, a highly trained warrior monk of the Zenote. They live their lives in secluded devotional space, with the most minimalistic of furnishings or decorations, so nothing can disturb their concentration. Specially constructed walls block all external interference, radiation, light waves, even the faintest sounds are eliminated, so that nothing disrupts their communion with the voice. The observer emerge only twice a day for simple meals, and each day, save on Sabbath when they fast, they train for 6 hours in martial combat. One day is devoted to the practice of using the resonance of their Oculus helmets, allowing them to use the voice of God to command any being in creation, if only for a fleeting moment. The rest of their lives are devoted to meditation upon the Word of God, locked away in their living tombs that know no sound. They only leave the temple for the most critical missions when the Zenote elders have received divine guidance, whether reinforcing a collapsing front in New Antioch or eliminating heretic assassins who have infiltrated the heartlands of Christendom. At the very heart of the valley, surrounded by the cells of the observers, stands the Gate of God, a colossal steepled towers that serve as the conduit for receiving the holy words. Yet the great central tower remains incomplete. For generations, the zenote's finest minds have experimented with countless different arrays and variants of the sacred geometry, trying to construct the perfect receptor, one that will receive the voice of God with absolute clarity. Each year, the Gate of God rises higher, its maze-like network of antennae, loudspeakers, and receptors emitting a hymn of every language ever spoken, echoing through the valley of the world as the zenote tries to tap directly into the words of creation. Despite generations of labor, the General Secretariat of the zenote remains unsatisfied. The lay brothers toil endlessly, seeking to hear the creator's voice with no interference. Beneath the central tower, deep within the valley's bedrock, dwell the prophetic tacticians, the most precious assets of the zenote. These gifted children are surgically, genetically, and chemically altered to make them perfectly suited to the role. They are equipped with strange and esoteric equipment that allows them to hear the word of God. Their seclusion is even more extreme than those of the observers, and the strain on their bodies and minds is far more severe. They are implanted with devices that allow their very being to reverberate with the voice of God, and they can be connected to the machinery of the zenote. The younger they are when their training begins, the better. For the closer they are to innocence, the easier it is for them to hear the divine words. Some chambers, even deeper within the tower's foundations, are guarded by a cadre of watchers, the most elite warriors of the temple, crowned by horns of light. What lies behind these doors remains a mystery, but some claim to have seen alchemists of the Iron Sultanate passing through, and whispers persist of monstrous wailing echoing from behind their 100-ton vault doors. If there is any truth to these rumors, none can say, but they only add to the awe-inspiring reputation of the zenote. In recent years, the War Cardinal has voiced criticisms of the zenote, likening their tower to the hubristic Act of Babel. Some claim his objections are less theological than political, for the zenote is becoming an independent army outside the control of the princes of the church. But for now, this schism remains a war of words rather than swords. Following up with the other places that have been fleshed out, we got the Iron Wall of the Sultanate, alongside its precise location here on the map. It runs along most of the border of modern-day Iran and cuts through the middle of Syria. In the Old Jerusalem sits the original Hellgate, neighbored by the city of Ekron, a throne of Beelzebub and the old land of the Canaanites. And what used to be Egypt is now Mammon's domain, the Prince of Crete. New Antioch sits on an odd place. Despite Turkey having been turned into a wasteland, now part of no man's land, the bastion of New Antioch is located by the coast facing Cyprus, and bordered by the city of Aleppo on the Sultanate side. Now let's take a closer look to the Iron Wall of the Sultanate. Anchored by the Taurus Mountains to the north and the Zagros Mountains in the east, the two horns of the crescent moon, the invincible Iron Wall of Tu al-Qarnayn is both the symbol of the Sultanate and the very reason for its existence. Beyond it lies the last and the greatest realm of those who believe, easily eclipsing all other known wonders of the world. None who have ever seen the Iron Wall can ever forget it, despite centuries of artillery bombardment by heretic cannons. Its surface is untarnished, glittering like a newly cast steel plating in the morning sun, and at night the manifold gemstones embedded into its very structure light up in a wondrous show of color and artistry. Neither the wall itself nor its gates have ever been brought down, and while some enemies have made it across the wall to spread death and terror deep into the Sultanate proper, they have always been thrown back. The wall remains warm to the touch, for scorching magma still courses within it. On the exceedingly rare instances when a terrifying weapon of hell has managed to crack its surface, the outpouring of molten metal within has brought a swift death to the invaders, and the rapidly cooling lava has then hardened to reform the wall. At regular intervals stands towers and bulwarks, erected by the sultans of both past and present, specifically constructed to support the long-range artillery of the Imperial School of Military Engineering. Although these constructions, mighty as they might be, are not nearly as durable as the invincible Iron Wall, there are 4 gates as well as many lesser ones, roughly corresponding to each cardinal direction. Each holds a great garrison commanded by a Sanjak Bey, a Lord of the Standard, responsible for the security and protection of the trade routes beyond. Despite their formidable constructions, the Sultan's Pashas note that if one of the 4 gates was ever taken, the Sultanate would be in mortal peril. Thus, it is not just janissaries and a host of azebs and sappers that guard the great gates, but instead, each entrance is also guarded by two tackling creatures of truly colossal proportions. Winged beasts with eyes keener than those of any hawk, and claws that can tear a heretic tank in half with a single swipe. Their form was chosen in honor of the legendary Barak that once carried the Prophet. They're not only there to protect the gate with physical force, but also with their wit. Created with a keen intellect, the Barak Takwin tests the travelers to the Sultanate with subtle but deeply sagacious questions and riddles, exposing any heretic infiltrator and whipping out those who would bring harm to the believers. Due to their intelligence, the Takwin Guardians are well aware of their artificial nature, making them suffer by the knowledge of their unnatural existence. It is said that they're created as pairs not only for their might, but also so that they could give solace to each other with deeply philosophical discussion and sophisticated poetry. For they were created by a man and not by God, and thus can hold no hope of salvation. The bountiful blessings of the Iron Wall are not limited to mere physical protection from the forces of Shaitan. The scholars of the House of Wisdom have labored for decades to create machines to help maintain and regulate the precipitation within the lands of the believers, as well as making Sultanate airspace exceedingly hard for heretic aerial forces to harry, due to the high winds that often wipe above the spires of the Iron Wall. Here, wondrous devices trap the passing gales and storms, using them to guard their airspace against hell bombers and long-range reconnaissance planes. Now, to wrap this up, let's have a look at one of the three main capitals of Western Europe. We already mentioned the Vatican and the Crown of Spain. Those two haven't been really fleshed out yet, but the one kingdom we have a lot of information right now is the Crown of England, alongside its flagship, so let's have a look at the moving fortress of Britannia. After decades of matching and often overcoming the heretic naval menace with the might of the royal fleet, the Crown of England now finds most of its battles are fought on their own land. Ever since the disastrous naval battle of Blooded Cliff in the year 1805, England has been a country at war. Betrayed by the Prince of Wales, who switched sides in the middle of the battle, the remnants of the English fleet were only salvaged thanks to Admiral Nelson's rearguard action and the heroic sacrifice of the HMS Bellerophon. The rest of the fleet limped into Portsmouth to fight another day. So great was the toll exacted by Nelson's defiant last stance that an immediate full-scale invasion of Britain was averted, for the legendary admiral took the Great Red Dragon, the flagship of the heretic fleet, to the bottom of the ocean with him. The years that followed were hard for England. With their lost dominance of the waves, its overseas territories were gone, and even the vital trade with mainland Europa became a desperate struggle. Heretic naval raiding parties caused widespread chaos and destruction all along the Albion coastline, often striking deep into the countryside, pillaging and burning towns and cities before being intercepted by the Crown Army, which was being stretched to its limits. Faced with death by 1,000 cuts, King Robert the Longsword reformed the army to counter this threat, and began plans for the building of a secret weapon to safeguard the nation, putting the fate of England in the hands of the Project Invincible. The construction of the moving fortress of Britannia, completed in the year 1907 of our Lord. The construction of the moving fortress of Britannia and its entry in the Great War finally established the situation on English shores, as it was able to match and exceed the heretic forces in any type of warfare, wherever the infernal powers decided to attempt a landing by simply moving there under its own immense power and unleashing its devastating combined arms power upon the invaders. The moving fortress is a marvel of industrial engineering, a titanic fleet carrier and battleship that can traverse both land and sea. This Leviathan patrols the shores of England, leaving a thick trail of black smoke and 3-foot-deep tracks in its wake. It acts both as a mobile base for England's High Command, an unrivaled artillery stronghold, and the only faithful ship that can engage heretic Behemoth-class vessels in one-on-one naval combat and emerge victorious. It is equally capable of engaging the heretic fleets at air, sea, or land. Within the vastness of its forest superstructure stands the fortress monastery of the 10,000 Knights of St. George, who can match even the fiercest heretics in close-quarter combat. An entire armored corps accompanies Britannia, and a full fleet consisting of 1/3 of England's remaining naval strength acts as its escort. Above it, the flower of England's air knights fly their fighter planes and naval bombers, The heretic high captains are well aware of the strategic value of controlling the British Isles, and they constantly strive to establish a beachhead that would lead to eventual conquest, though thus far without lasting success due to the might of the fortress. The technology that allows Britannia to move over shorelines is unknown, and a closely guarded secret of the crown. Whatever the source of this innovation, it allows the fortress to travel across the land of most English beaches, albeit slowly. When crawling upon England's shores, a great noise and deafening hiss of steam can be heard, and it appears that the ship does not touch the ground at all. If there is a weakness to the moving fortress, it is the fact that it is the only of its kind. England's reserves of orichalcum and other critical minerals that were required to construct the pride of the nation were depleted by the enormous effort to build it, and current production and trade of such materials can barely maintain the repairs to the fortress and the rest of the fleet. Within the British Isles, the moving fortress is a delicate issue to discuss. It is dedicated to the defense of England alone, and her neighbors grumble that, while Englishmen sleep soundly in their beds under its protection, the heretic navies raid Alba, Ayr, and the lands of Wales with impunity. The English crown counters these accusations by pointing out that it is only the fear of the fortress that stops the hulking behemoth-class heretic battleships from approaching the shores of the three islands and mounting a full-scale invasion of them. Britannia proudly displays the heraldic device of the three lions. Until the construction of the moving fortress, the English coat of arms carried only the two lions of William the Conqueror. When the construction of Britannia was completed, a third lion was added. No ruler before had dared to raise their own device next to one of William I. On the prow stands the defiant image of Lady Britannia, carrying the sword forged in part from the melted sword Cortana, showing that England will show no mercy to enemies that come to plunder its shores. The sailors of the fleet swear that the figurehead has the power to turn aside any heretic artillery shell due to the divine providence granted to it by God. Whether this is true or not, the proud figurehead has never been touched by any enemy weapon, adding to the mystique and majesty of this, the foremost defender of England. And that might be it for today. I hope you liked the video. I really hope you liked the video, and if that's the case, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. That really helps me and the channel. And let me know in the comments down below what would you like to see next. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.